Hello, good morning everyone, and welcome to Fuse, a completely online games conference brought to you by the Games Department here at Staffordshire University. Throughout this week, we'll be joined by a variety of guests who hope to ignite your interest, instill passion, and provide hints and tips to succeeding in your own pursuit of a career in games. I'm Rob Lambert, your host for the duration of the conference, and I'll be joined by several co-hosts from the department whose specialisms lie within the context of each talk. This will ensure that your questions and comments are seen, understood, and relayed to our guests in order to guide discussion, establish natural flow within the conversation. Unfortunately, not all comments will be read live due to the expected traffic volume, so please do not be too disappointed if they're simplified or missed entirely, as we only have a finite amount of time with each industry guest. We will aim to prioritize comments based on their suitability and relation to the current conversation. You can access all talks to this week via the Staff's Development YouTube and Twitch channels, so make sure that you like and subscribe for further updates and easy access. Otherwise, you can access the timetable and links to each session on our website. This will now be placed at the bottom of our screen. For our first talk, I'd like to introduce you to two of my colleagues from the Games Department here at Staffordshire University, Games Art Course Director David Edwards and Games Art Course Leader Mike Acosta. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Rob.
Good morning. So this morning you're going to be telling us all about the games courses at the university. Would you like to share some content with our guests?
I will indeed. I will stick my presentation mode on, so hopefully this is going to work all fine. I do want to share my screen. There we go. And I'll share the audio as well. And hopefully you can see that.
There we go.
Here we are. Oh, all good. Okay. We have our Games Development Show Wheel, which will kick us off, and then we'll get into a little bit about Staffs and what we do here. So if you don't know too much about us, then you feel free to ask any questions, anything that might come up as we go through.
Okay.
All right. So welcome, folks. Welcome to Staffordshire University. I'll ask Rob if you can pop the link to that video in the chat, as I'm sure
We'll do.
capabilities across the country perhaps a little bit different. So we'll have that link in the chat for anyone who didn't manage to see that in quite the high definition that it perhaps may have been on my screen. But welcome to Staffordshire University. There we are in the middle of the UK, right in the heart of England. And as you can see, within easy accessible reach of Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, London, all of these hubs of game development on our doorstep. And what's fantastic is Staffordshire University is a university that has been dedicating themselves for the past, I would say, 20 years to games development, but it includes virtual production, animation, and esports in that as well. So when we talk about games at Staffordshire University, we're not talking about a small department of a computer science department or a small department within art and design, or even disparate courses spread out amongst, programming and computer science and art within art and design. We're talking about an entire department dedicated specifically to games development, which is just brilliant. So, what is coming to university to study games? What does that involve? What I'd say is it's about taking your hobbies and your interests, and perhaps at college, or as a hobbyist, you play games, and maybe you play games for a long time since you were young, and you've been a consumer of that content. You've been buying those games on Steam or Xbox, and you've been playing them and enjoying them, and you're thinking about university and going into games development as a career. And it is taking that transition, that sort of mental leap, I guess, where you're putting in the content for other people to play. You're the one that's going to be creating those games. You're creating those worlds and those fantastic creatures and monsters that people will fight against, as part of their entertainment now, and you're going to be curating and creating that. And it is a fantastic and big business in worldwide industry as well. So, some facts and figures. I always like this slide because every year that I do our open days at Staffordshire University, I find myself updating this slide with just bigger numbers, more players, more industry revenue, and more people playing games across the globe as well, which is just fantastic because that's an industry that's growing. There's perhaps a generation, or maybe even two, of generations where games just didn't exist as an entertainment medium, but that's not the case anymore. And as we continue to develop, more people are playing games. Older generations are still playing games, and there's a huge audience there, and a huge diverse audience for people to play games. People playing games on the commute to work, for example, and in their free times in the evenings. Even mobile games, which perhaps, as you can see there, accounts for almost half of the revenue generated by game studios. And it's people have got to make those games ultimately. A degree from Staffordshire University, I would say, is could take you across the globe. We've got graduates in studios across the world, from Germany to the Far East to Iceland and America. And there's no reason. It's not just a local industry or even a UK industry. This is a worldwide industry, and you can absolutely be a big part of that. But the UK industry is a big industry as well, and in terms of the big studios and the big games, Staffordshire University have been a big player, I suppose, by our alumni in that. And when you think of big studios, your Rockstar creating GTA, perhaps Playground with Forza, and Rare with Sea of Thieves. Those are UK games. Those are UK games because they're made right here. Rare's made in Twycross, just around the corner. And it is an absolutely fantastic fact that the UK is making some of the best games in the world with some of the best people in the world. I think that's just fantastic. And Staffs has been a big part of that. We've been doing this for 20 years. Our games department has existed. And we've been putting out students and alumni into that industry for 20 years as well. Some of the studios you can see that our graduates have gone off to work in, still working. As well, it's not just one person with a bit of a checkered job history. This is the success of Staffordshire University over 20 years, and our graduates, they occupy perhaps quite senior or leading positions in some of these studios now as well. And we partner with them on events and activities. They're coming to us particularly to hire our graduates because they recognise the quality of our courses, and they have an affinity to us, and they understand how we push the bar for games education in the UK. And I think it's a really important part of what we do is to keep those connections live. We have an industry advisory panel, which overlooks our courses and advises on changes and improvements. And it is a really important part of what we do is to make sure that the graduates and yourselves, if you're looking at Staffordshire University, it's a place to come and learn. It is a respected course. It is one of those courses that will absolutely help you to achieve your goal of going into the industry. But how do you know a course is any good? How do you know that a university course is going to do right by you, that it's respected by the industry? And I think it's about looking at some of the things that we do. and how industry views it as well. So the Tiger Awards, the Tiger are the game industry advisory panel. They are one of the trade bodies of the UK. They represent the UK game industry and lobby Parliament for support and incentives and things like that to keep the UK as the heart of game development across the globe. And each year we have the Tiger Education Awards and the Tiger Awards, which recognises and has for the last 4 years recognised Staffordshire University as being an industry leader, an educational leader, whether it's through our outstanding graduates or whether it's through our educational institution winning, or even as in 2023, a student-made game actually won the best arcade game at the Tiger Awards, and that was fantastic. That was a piece of work that was done through the summer. It was a work by our internal placement team of students, about 20 students who worked on that, and it's a framework that we teach with as well. So if you come to Staffs, you get your hands on, with these frameworks and with these activities as a learning tool to help get you ready for the industry. But it's not just Tiger that we work very closely with. We work with the rookies as well. I'm going to hand over to Mike to talk a little bit about our success with the rookies.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know about the rookies, essentially it was born out of ArtStation being pretty saturated with student work, because it was in there amongst professionals' work as well. So the rookies decided they'd build a website where you could host your student profile on there as long as you are a student or have been a student within the last year. And then on top of that, they also run an annual sort of Young Creatives Award, and it's a global award. And there's various categories you can go into. There's animation, game, visual effects, motion graphics. I think fashion's in there as well this year. And last year, the piece that you saw on the showreel that Rob showed at the beginning, and just behind the Staffordshire University name there with the logos underneath the 4 rookies badges underneath, that piece there was a piece by a guy called Aaron Burnhope, who actually was one of our students who completed the course last year, and he finished winning the rookies, but also having two different studios fighting for him by the time he'd finished with us. So yeah, it's a phenomenal website that everyone should be sort of looking into, being a part of, and they ranked us as #1 in the UK this year. We hope to keep that. We've got some good work coming through for this year's competition. But you can also see on our listings there where the other universities in the country have ranked. The other really cool thing is that we were ranked 7th globally, which is quite a feat when you consider some of the studios, some of the education establishments who run courses like ours charge quite vast amounts in comparison. So we're certainly kind of punching above our weight when it comes to things like the rookies.
That's absolutely right, Mike. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic achievement, and it just goes to because this is all student work that this is judged on. This isn't done by us writing a nice sort of a letter or anything like that. It is the quality of the student work that is grading us as the #1 in the UK for game design development and for creative school. And I think that's just a fantastic testament to the hard work the students put in, the support the staff give, and I think it's a fantastic thing, and we're looking to keep that going for many a year. But what does that look like? What does Staffordshire University look like? Well, it's a fantastic level of support that you would come in with as coming to Staffordshire University. When we talk about us as a big department, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about unique courses that cater to individual subject specialisms like games art, concept art, and game design and programming. We're looking at 18 games development labs and specialist teaching spaces that are geared to specific things like motion capture, laser scanning, or to concept art workshops or life drawing. 135 specialist modules, whether that is stylized creature design, or whether it's digital sculpting, human anatomy, or programming, or AI, or systems design, or game mechanic design. Those specific modules mean that you're getting expert advice in the specific areas towards your career. And, the support you get from student to staff ratio, but also knowing that, we are recognized by Unreal Engine as an authorized training center with authorized instructors. So we're going out into the world to train those people how to use Unreal Engine within the wider world. Being a rookies winner and a Women Games ambassador as well. But what does 65 Games academics actually look like? Well, this was a photo that we took last year. This was our summer away day, and you can see just a good handful of our staff there. I don't even think that's everyone at the time. I think that's everyone that turned up on the day. And as you can see, what we're looking at there is, again, individual experts and subject experts in things like AI or weapons production for games, or level design, mechanics design, concept art, creature art. So you're not just getting a course where one of the lecturers swaps a hat to be an environment artist one day and a character artist the next. You're getting dedicated experts. You go and find their work on places like ArtStation or LinkedIn and see how good they actually are. And it is a supported experience as well. So, because of that size of that team and because of the modules that we run, you are getting a very supported and catered for and personal learning experience as well. So, we have dedicated individual academic mentors that you can come and speak to regarding any support needs that you might have, or to get advice, perhaps on your career aspirations. Perhaps if you're interested in taking a placement, or you want to know which module might best suit your career, you can talk to them. We have a diverse teaching team and 24-hour games labs as well. We recently had a deadline, and those labs were very busy during that support. But we have dedicated things like forums and learning environments for people to get feedback. And we have dedicated career services as well, and people dedicated to helping you within the games industry find careers, as well as mentoring and well-being support as well. So you can see you do get that level of individual personal support that you might need, and that we can provide, and we have a lot of expertise and experience in providing as well. But coming to university isn't just about the academic study. It is a big, important part of it, I'm sure, but it isn't just that. So the student university and the students' union have got together, and we have a lot of societies that are, with the students that are in our courses. They set them up on games they play or activities they enjoy. And you can come together on like a Friday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon to come and play games, meet friends, have a social, and just enjoy, friends that perhaps, you'll make now that could perhaps last you the rest of your career. So yeah, why not come and get together and play Mario Kart? And there's societies that have even sprung up to support you with your studies, which sounds amazing. As a way to get mentored feedback from perhaps the final year students, helping first year students. You can ask questions, or you can just get together and do some life drawing in the life drawing room. Dress up in your cosplay and draw out what we do. And that's it. Again, it's just a fantastic way that the students have come together to make friends and support each other. But we do have some fantastic industry facilities as well. Some fantastic toys, Wacom tablets, a huge motion capture, 7 meters by 14 meters of mocap space, 2 dedicated live drawing rooms, laser scanners, and all the sort of tech that you could need. Our standard equipment now are RTX 30 series workstations, which spent $1.5 million in 2021 on a whole bunch of those. So perhaps if you're thinking back a few years and you couldn't get an RTX card, and we were perhaps a reason for that. We spent an awful lot of money to rekit our labs, and we continue to do that as well on a rolling cycle. So we'd have 40 series cards going into labs this year. But we have the rolling updates on software as well. So currently working with things like the 2024 versions of 3ds Max, Unreal Engine 5.3, 2024 ZBrush, and continued updates of things like Houdini and SpeedTree and stuff like that. If it's used to make games, we'll have it in the labs, and you can get access to it, as well as individual specialist suites like XR and VR development kits, 3D printing studios, and anything else that you could possibly want to get your hands on. And if you can't get access to equipment, we can lend it to you through our media stores. So maybe if you want to borrow a high quality DSLR camera to take some photogrammetry or texture reference, then we could hire your camera for 24 hours or 36 hours to go and do that. And you can do that at no cost to yourself, which is fantastic, really. But it is about bringing you and the industry closer. So I'm going to hand over to Mike again to talk a little bit about how we do that and perhaps even some of the events that we put on as well.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that surprised me when I joined staff 6 months ago was the amount of industry representation and the involvement of industry within the courses, not just in games art, the one that I run, across the board at staff. So the UK Student Games Conference is hosted in Staffordshire, where we have industry come in and give specialist talks, similar in that to what's happening this week with Rob's Fuse, but these ones are in person. We also have the Let's Talk Games conference, the one that I run in Leamington Spa, again around sort of 20 speakers from all the studios that you would know and recognize, household name studios coming and giving talks. And then on top of that, we also have mock interviews where our level 6 students get to actually practice what it would be like to have an interview, but not just practice with members of staff. That we bring in industry again from large studios, the likes of Ubisoft, Playground, etc., there to interview students this year. So I mean, all of that is kind of second to none in terms of getting students prepared for the workplace. And industry are consistently looking to staffs for their students. Where can we find the best students? And well, it's here.
Absolutely right, Mike. Yeah, absolutely right. We've even got a module in our final year game art course called Live Brief and Employability, and we've actually got live briefs from the industry that the students can take part with. Give them a hands-on practice of perhaps what it is like to be doing this brief, but also perhaps for studios to scout out some of our best students and maybe offer them an opportunity, perhaps, and keep their eye on them, perhaps as they graduate.
Who are we to expect the live briefs from this year?
Oh, well, we've got a few lined up. We don't. Flicks have been very Flicks Interactive, the studio that we work out of Bromsgrove, been super supportive, and I actually had a meeting with one of their lead artists just last week to talk about briefs. So they should be coming back to me very soon. Expression Games as well have also talked to us about briefs as well, and just waiting on sign off from that studio to release the briefs to us. And I've got a meeting later this week about that. And we've got a few others as well that are just in the works, in the pipelines as well. Some of the biggest UK.
War Dog is very much potentially a brief coming through that's been finalised at the moment, and then I'm also in talks with Playground to also deliver a brief. So yeah, fingers crossed all of that comes to fruition this year.
And if you're a studio watching this and you want to be involved with our students, then feel free to get in touch.
Fantastic, some big names then.
Some big names, yeah, absolutely big names, and big briefs as well. We do recognise the industry is a vast and diverse industry as well, and I think what's an important part of recognising that it's a collaborative industry. We can see here, this is a fantastic graphic by Creative Assembly about all of the different roles and levels of expertise and specialisms within the industry. And I think what's important to note is it takes this sort of many people to make some of those big AAA games. Sure, games can be made in a bedroom by one person, and I think there's Stardew Valley is perhaps a great example of that sort of thing. That's an exception to the rule. And what we try to do is with our students is to give them that experience of collaborative and cross discipline games development within our courses. So what we did was we looked at this graphic and we looked at the industry and we said, okay, well, how does this align to what students might want to study and the careers within the industries as well? Because it's one course just couldn't cover all this. I mean, that's just crazy to think that could be a thing. So our courses, we do have those specialist courses like concept art and like games programming, where you cover very specific aspects of learning. So we're looking at very specific parts of the industry, and whether you're more artistic in nature, more design focused, or more technical. As a student, you can really choose sort of the course that's going to cater to your areas of interest, your expertise, where you want to see yourself in the industry and the sort of job you see yourself doing as well. Whether that's more 3D modeling, more digital painting, more animation, more in the role of game design theory, or in sort of hardcore games programming, I guess, or AI programming, you can choose the course that really caters for that. But in every case, you'll be working with those students across disciplines in the games development project. And so students in the second and third year come together, about a team of 15 to 12 to 15 students come together to make a game. And in the second year, the students are the juniors in that team. They are perhaps working towards a guided brief or making those assets and trying to get them all to look the same and to feel good. Whereas in the final year, students are in the senior and lead role. So you are, in that particular instance, you are perhaps mentoring those second years. You're deciding the art style, reining in the scope, or determining how the gameplay experience is going to go, and maybe writing that style guide or art bible for the students in the second year and the third year to adhere to. And the staff were the executive producers. So we are looking at how students will come together to, we can come along and say, maybe in this particular instance, we want to focus on this area of development, or you've got too much for the time that you've got available, rein in the scope a little bit and maybe make the experience, a shorter experience, or go into more detail in this game mechanic because it's the most interesting. And I think that's a really important part of the students learning how the industry kind of works and what is an achievable sort of goal as well. And students by and large really enjoy this module because it gives them an awful lot of creative freedom, but it's very much a representative of the industry in that sort of studio style environment. And because students are coming from all those different teams, it's a great opportunity for the artists to hand over stuff to the animators, or the programmers to create the game mechanics for the designers and things like that. And it is a sort of a really great, wonderful experience. And I very much enjoy being the producer in that sort of role, guiding the students to what they can achieve.
I think we sometimes understate this module across the
I
series.
would say so. Yeah,
There's so many other places in the country that you end up with artists having to try and do some of the code in order to make a game, and that just doesn't happen here. We allow artists to be artists, and they work with the animators, they work with the coders. So it's a wonderful thing we do there.
And I think as well, the team size is important because 12 to 15 people. It's I suppose the size of a few small indie studios, I would guess. But equally, it also means the students can have a little bit more faith in things going well because there's enough people to sort of pick up all of those elements. There are, if a student, perhaps. Isn't pulling their weight, it's not going to break the project. Whereas if you're in a team with 4 people and someone stops turning up, then it really affects how things can go. But with a larger team, then things are a little bit easier to overcome those particular problems. And as we just got jumping back to our employment record over the years, again, it's a great level of success. But how does this translate to perhaps the UK industry? What sort of facts and figures have we got for that? Well, we did some work on LinkedIn around some of the biggest studios in the UK. We went to have a look, and you can do this quite publicly on LinkedIn as well. You can go and have a look at where folks that work in those companies, where they went to university, and some of those big companies around the UK. You can see Staffordshire University graduates populating an awful lot of them, and some of these are like reunions when you go to places like Flix or Rare. It's a sort of who's who from Staffordshire University, which is just fantastic. You can have a lot of faith that and I think the studios do as well. They know how good the students and the graduates are. They know that we're doing right by them, and I think it puts a lot of faith in the studios to know that when they hire a Staffordshire University graduate, they're getting someone really good and exceptionally talented as well, which is just fantastic. So we'll continue to support that, and we really do want to continue to see that grow. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. I suppose we're going to open it up to questions, and I can already see perhaps a couple in the chat as well. And if I can use some slides from the presentation to help, I will absolutely do that.
There certainly is, Dave. There's a question straight away from Divyanesh asking about their career that they're hoping to pursue. So they want to pursue a career in games design, and there's two courses, one in games design and the other in gameplay design and production. So which one would be the best course for them?
Game design is probably the course that is one of the more general courses of in terms of the optional modules that you can choose through that. Both game design and gameplay design and production share a common first year, so you'll get a similar experience of what you want to pursue. You'll get a taste of different aspects of the industry. There's a few different modules. I think gameplay design starts to really look at things like narrative design and a little bit more of the theory behind games development compared to the game design course. It includes less modules around things like animation and 3D, for example, whereas game design is giving you a little bit more of those skills because it perhaps also includes aspects like level design and options like that. What I will say is when you apply to Staffordshire University, you're not stuck in the course that you've made. Because we have the variety of courses we do, it's very easy for students to jump between one course and another throughout the academic year. We usually have that small sort of transfer window at the start of the year, but also between level 4 and level 5. So that's between the second and the third year of the course. Students can swap there as well. It's a little bit more tricky if you're going from game design, so perhaps from games programming to concept art. That would be, you'd probably be looking to restart your studies at that point. But for moving between something that's closely associated, games art to concept art, for example, or a game design to gameplay design, that's a little bit easier for us to do, and is common for us to look at students' grades, look at perhaps their portfolio of work at that stage, and help them move across. One thing I'll say about Staffs Uni, and I'm just going to tab out to my browser for a second, is you can search Staffordshire University Games, and it will bring you to this sort of landing page where it gives you a lot of information on the course of what we do. But equally inside here as well, what you'll be able to find when it loads up is you'll be able to find links to all of the different courses that we do. And what I would encourage you to do if you're unsure about what the difference is between these two courses is just load up the page that relates to the course that you think you might be interested in. And our modules are very much, if I just come back to course content, what you'll see is the modules that you'll study very much, you can see it does what it says on the tin. Do you know what I mean? Those modules. So you get a good understanding of, I'm going to be doing some game animation, I'm going to be doing some gameplay and quest design or some system design. And then you've got the optional modules that will come in here as well. As you can see, this course has got like a lighting module, for example, and maybe a cinematics kind of module. So you can sort of take that on those modules. They're not generic sort of game design 3 or something that sort of doesn't really mean anything to you. You should be able to click on each one of these and get a good understanding of what these are. And as I say, you can always just jump back to go into our other course. And we're quite open about what we do and how we work. And again, those course content, you'll be able to scroll down to sort of different, as you can see here, we've got different designs for narrative, for example, or experimental games production. So you get a little bit of a different taste. And that way, when you look at the options, hopefully you'll be able to see the main differences between the course. Things like game history, theory and culture and stuff like that perhaps is slightly different from one course to the next. The biggest thing I could say, though, if you are interested and you want to know more about it, come to an open day. If you come to one of our Staffordshire University open days, we've actually got one coming up on the 9th of March, and I'll pop the link into the chat. Then what you can do is there we go, book into the open day. You can come and learn and speak to the students on those courses and speak to them about what we do and how that works. And as you can see here, you can quite easily just choose the kind of course that you're interested in when you come to an open day and what you'd like to learn about. And you can see 9th of March or 8th of June. So there we go. I can perhaps I'll ask Rob to pop that link into the chat for the open days.
So what can we expect from an open day, Dave?
What does an open day look like? Oh, there we go. Let's have a scroll down on the website while we talk about it. The way it generally works is there's general university talks at the start of the day. So there's usually two windows of time. So you can come for a morning session or an afternoon session. And it tends to work that you'll get like a university talk, a finance talks, accommodation talks, and things like that in the Catalyst building, which is this building that you can see here on the video. And you get campus tours as well that you'll get. But what you do is once you sign up for a particular subject talk, after the general university talks, you can come to as the subject talks, where you'll get a good hour, I'd say, to learn a lot about what that course is and how it works, the modules that are involved, and you'll perhaps understand a little bit more specifically about what happens on those courses, the sort of assessments that you'll do, and how they differ as well. What I tend to say to folks is if you're interested, absolutely sign up. And if you're not sure whether you want to go for something like programming or design, then perhaps you can come for the whole day, and you can you can turn up, do the morning with the game design talk, and then in the afternoon, after you've grabbed yourself some lunch from our burrito bar or something like that, you could go to the programming talk. So you can really make the most of your experience on campus and actually get the sort of knowledge that you need to make an informed and right decision, really. But obviously there's more days that you can do as well. But there's lots of things to talk about. We usually have students on hand as well to talk to applicants and to interested visitors. We've even had some alumni pop in as well. And in our last open day, we actually had a Games Art alumni, Ariana, who's a character artist at Flix Interactive, come, and she was a big part of talking about the course, the Games Art course, and what we do at Staffs as well, which is just fantastic. So always a lot to see and to do as well.
Lovely. So in terms of UCAS points then, Dave, what's the general amount that somebody would require in order to get onto one of the courses?
112 points. All of our, if I jump back a couple of slides to perhaps one of the courses, what you can see in here, the entry requirements, we're really quite clear on the website about what you need to do. So you're looking at 112 to 120 UCAS points for level 4 entry. And what that looks like is that's jumping into the first year, so a 3-year course. And you can see there all the different variations for things like UAL and T levels and things like that. For our art courses, for things like games art and concept art, we also require a portfolio entry. So if I click on concept art, for example, and come down to entry requirements, we will also have in here, you can see there will be a concept art portfolio. And what we have actually is we have got some videos that will talk a little bit about what you want to include in those portfolios as well for those specific courses. If that's something you're interested in, check out the webpage and give that a watch. I'll additionally say all of the courses do come with, as you can see here, do come with a foundation year. And what the foundation year is a course that is a 4-year version of the course. So it's not a separate foundation year. You don't have to reapply. Essentially what happens, your first year of your course works with these foundation year modules. And you can see that in the case of concept art, they're 2D foundations, digital painting, and figure drawing. So they're very specific for the course that you're doing. And if we were to go to game design or games programming, we'll see a similar thing. And that means that once you pass that foundation, you come into the level 4 modules, the year 1, perhaps for folks with the points. The way that foundation years tend to work, they are usually for folks that perhaps aren't predicted to get that 112 to 120 UCAS points. Perhaps things have not worked out the way they might at college. Things have been a bit more difficult than you expected for a variety of reasons, and you just think, actually, I want to slow things down a little bit. Maybe you're coming from into games as a mature student, or from very traditional A levels, history, geography, maths, or something like that, and you feel that you want a little bit more time to get used to games development, to learn things like the Unreal Engine or digital painting or something like that. And you want to sort of slow that down a little bit. And, I think what's an important part education is finding the pace that suits you. And for some folks, that is coming in at a foundation year and getting a little bit more time to actually develop those skills and go through the course. So, you have the skills and and other people, it's about moving away from home. They may have, we've had people ask to go to the foundation year and apply for it with 160 UCAS points, and that's because what they wanted to do was get used to living away from home. They were really sort of anxious about perhaps cooking their own food or just being away from perhaps friends and family. And so by going into the foundation year, they thought, well, I'm not going to have to worry about my studies. My studies will be fine. I think I'll be getting on well there, but the foundation year is going to give me just a little bit more breathing space to come to terms with sort of supporting and living by myself. And that was for them the best decision. And it is a very personal thing as well. But like I say, you can come to the foundation year through your predicted UCAS points, or if you apply for a portfolio course, we might recommend it based on the quality of your portfolio for games art or for concept art as well.
So if I have a taste of a foundation, Dave, as a student, and then I decide that maybe I don't want to pursue art anymore and want to move on to design, is that something that you allow?
Absolutely, yeah. You can just jumping back into that graphic for a second. Yeah, once you've done the foundation year, we would say that you've got the experience then of scholarship and studentship, that we would look at that and say we would allow you to swap between them. The one that I will say is is the portfolio entries for game art and concept art. So if you did the games development or games programming foundation and you really wanted to go and study concept art or game art, we would still ask for that portfolio entry. And if that's something that you're interested in, I would recommend you have a chat with us perhaps at an open day or something like that.
Okay, so when we get to staffs and we're in classes, what kind of size classrooms are we going to be in? What amount of staff are going to be present?
We generally go with a 20-to-1 student to staff ratio, 20 to 24 to 1, something like that, student to staff ratio. So you're never more than, if it's anything more, if it's 25 or 28 students in a class, you'd find that there'd be 2 members of staff in that room as well. And what does it look like? I suppose our games development labs, I think I've got a video actually here that might actually showcase this. Where are we? Where's our games development labs? I think I've got it in here. Oh, there we go. Someone has dropped that into the chat. There we go, with one of our former colleagues, Greg, talking a little bit about what our labs look like and sort of things you can expect. Dual screens, Wacom tablets, RTX cards. We're in a really great space where we've got high ceilings and big windows, so it's never like you're working in a bunker of games development. You're working in, as you can see here, great open space with projectors, large screen projectors, and dual screen setups with a large desk working area. So if you did want to plug in laptops or any personal devices, you can still do that, charge your phone and things like that as well. But you're not crammed onto a single screen workstation. So very much a space that's set up for working in things like Unreal Engine or with things like Substance Painter with your PureRef board on the second screen, or ZBrush and your anatomy reference perhaps with your Wacom tablet. Having the Wacom tablet to hand means that you can just turn up to a lab, you can grab a pen from the tutor at the front of the class and start working immediately. You don't have to bring your own tablet or even your own pen. If you've got your own pen, you can obviously turn up to the labs at any time of day where they're 24-hour and just start painting, just start drawing using those Wacom tablets. So it makes it very accessible for folks, I'd say, to come and use. It's ready to go. It's ready and set up, which is just awesome. There we go, Greg talking us through a little bit about the labs.
So how much time are we expected to spend within the labs, Dave?
You'd be in the labs for 12 hours of contact time across the course. So in the first year, for example, when you were doing 6 modules, you'd be expected to be in each of those modules for 6 hours a week, and you would do 2 modules at the same time. So yeah, you're scheduled in class for 2 hours. And what I'd say as well, we don't do sort of hybrid and online sort of courses. So it's not a case where you're in one week and then you're online the next week or anything like that. I've heard of some of those sorts of things. You're scheduled with the tutors in those classes, so you can get the hands-on support that you need. But equally, there's a lot of technology used, like Teams, to facilitate, the ability for you to ask questions or to raise issues outside of the class as well, or to access things like placement schemes and options like that. So all students are added to a employability Microsoft team, for example, where you can, our careers teams will be linking out things like placements for things like Warner Brothers or Sumo or something like that.
So with placements and sandwich years, as people sort of sometimes call them, Dave, how does a student go about that? Is there a specific criteria? How do we begin to even think or apply?
Yeah, so the first thing you can do is you can apply for your course with a placement year as part of it. So if you're interested in taking a placement, that might be something that you do. And what we'll do is we'll talk to you about what it takes to achieve a placement within the games industry, and we'll support you in your creation of your portfolio and recognizing and applying for those placement schemes, and give you the best opportunity to achieve that. Now, some folks who don't apply for placements, you come in with, like, perhaps you just applied for the standard full-time. If you find a placement in that time, what we would do is we would transfer you over to a placement code. So when you graduate, you will be able to graduate with a placement year as part of your degree title. Equally, if you apply for a placement year course and you just want to continue straight through between the second and the third year, you just want to carry on, then we would do the opposite of that. Placements are usually taken, I'm going to use the concept art as a good example. Placements are usually taken here between the second and the third year of the course. So even if we choose the placement year here, this would be where you would do the placement, as you can see here, between that second year modules and those final year modules. That tends to be how it works. People are free to do things like summer internships and stuff between any of the other years of their study. But if you were doing a placement, it would be it tends to be something like a 44-week placement that would take a whole year, usually between September and July is the typical sort of time window for that. But placements are super competitive to get. We wouldn't guarantee you a placement because I think that's not realistic for us to say that, but we do have a variety of schemes and things like our internship scheme that we ran the last 2 years, called One Up, that we took placement students ourselves as a summer internship, but we will support you in getting a placement outside in the industry. But there's I would say that there isn't a placement for everyone, because the UK game industry just couldn't support that. It just doesn't. They are super competitive, but we will help you from day one to work on your portfolio to get you ready to apply for those placements as you're a second year student. Yeah.
So Dave and Mike, you could probably both chime in with something here. What can a student do to best put themselves in position to be successful when applying for a placement?
Mike, do you want to?
I think the most important thing is to make sure, I mean, networks, it's kind of a slightly dirty word, and people kind of worry about what that actually means, and they worry that they've got to go to gaming conventions and just run up to someone and randomly start talking to them and showing their portfolio. And it's not about that. It's find people who are in the position that you are, that perhaps have had placements before, find the right Discord channels and just speak to people and understand what it is that the industry is looking for, find out what the latest trends are in games. And that's the kind of thing that you want to have in your portfolio. And I think above everything, studios want to see, if they're going to take someone on a placement, they want to see your working out, as it were. Don't spend hours making one unique piece and then take it into Photoshop and clean it all up and make it look fantastic. They want to see, where's the guts of this project? Where did the ideas come from and how has it developed through to that final piece? And you're much more likely to get a placement if you're able to A, show you're working out, and B, communicate. As the reason why we do our mock interviews and things like that here is so that students have that sort of soft skill of being able to speak to industry and just showing them that they're a human, right? And that they've gone through the same channels. They've just learned how to create really, really awesome stuff.
So when it comes to portfolios, where can I put mine? Where's the best to get traffic, and what kind of things a company is going to be expecting?
Well, I mean, from the games art side, I would say that ArtStation is still probably the #1 place that people are putting their portfolios. But the rookies are starting to get much more recognized in terms of graduate portfolios. You know, it's where industry are tending to start looking now to find portfolios from students, mainly because you can't post anything on the rookies unless you are within education or have been in education within the last year. So it's a great place to start for industry to start looking at where's the new talent coming from. Your own website is probably a good idea if you're someone who's coming from more of the technical side or the programming or design side. If you're an artist, I think try to move away from that. We don't want anyone to kind of struggle to find your work. So don't give them a complicated website to look through. If that's not your role, it's not your role. If you're going for a job in UI, by all means, go ahead and build your own website. Anything else, Dave? I think he's frozen.
So if I'm trying to apply for the rookies, what time of the year do they tend to be doing competitions and things like that, which are going to give us more ability to be seen, Mike?
Well, the rookies competition opens. Oh, is Dave back? I think he's back.
Yep.
The rookies competition opens up. I believe it's in about 10 days' time. 7th of March, I think it is. My maths might be wrong, correct. And that's a fantastic. You don't have to be, a third-year student, a level 6 student, waiting to show off your fantastic final year project. You can get into the rookies and apply and be involved in it from your first year. And it was that nice learning curve of how do you present your work, and perhaps you'll get feedback. There are 140 judges that will be looking over thousands of submissions, and a majority of them will get feedback based on the work that was submitted. So why not apply straight away in your first year of university and see how you do. You might surprise yourself.
Yeah, I think what we were saying earlier, Mike, about the portfolios. I think definitely want to make it easy for anyone to view your work, right? And the industry is a very in terms of applying it, your work has to be viewable by someone else, whether it's recruiters, hiring managers, lead artists, studio leads looking for people to fulfill roles. You've got to be very open to the fact that someone else is viewing your work. It's not a private type of thing. So having a portfolio website, having your ArtStation shareable and things like that, I think is a really important part of what artists do, especially things like concept artists, where perhaps you're looking for work for hire, right? So having your ArtStation or work for hire available through LinkedIn even is really important, or even creating that sort of profile for yourself as a hireable artist, I think is really important. But yeah, check out our Staffordshire University ArtStation if you're interested in that. But equally, it will link out to some of our current students' ArtStations as well. And if you're looking for inspiration about how to perhaps lay out your ArtStation, that can help it just as much. So that's what
Wonderful.
I'd say.
So in terms of getting hired outside of university, we've mentioned there how we can look at placements. Is that the same sort of guidance that you would give someone looking at graduating soon, or is there anything else that we can do to get as noticeable as possible, or is there events that the university put on to be able to be more visible to industry?
I think looking out for all the events that are out there for games. I mean, just turn up there and talk to people. Don't turn up there trying to sell yourself straight away. And here's my work. Can you look at it? And can I have a job? It doesn't work in that way. And if anyone who's really serious about getting a job in the industry, I think Twitter, or X as it's called now, and LinkedIn are the two kind of core areas that I see industry post. Particularly LinkedIn. I seem to live on LinkedIn quite a lot these days, and that's how my network has grown dramatically over the years, and it's just through communicating and joining some of the groups that are there. You know, if you're a character artist, or you graduated with a character art portfolio and it's not quite up to scratch, then join some of the character art groups on LinkedIn, and follow and post your work. Don't be precious about getting criticism on your work. It's a learning curve still. Even our own tutors now are continually upskilling and learning new software all the time, and posting your work out there and getting feedback on it is the only way that you are going to improve, and the only way you're going to get feedback. So yeah, for me, I think if you're someone who's recently graduated or is about to graduate, make sure you have a LinkedIn profile, make sure you're communicating with people.
So I'm going to bring in another one of our guests as our head of department, Professor Chris Headland. Good morning, Chris. You're currently muted. If you'd like to unmute, then we'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, that would help, wouldn't it?
Good morning. So this year we're 20 years of games at Staffs, Chris. Obviously, that's a massive milestone. What kind of things have gone on so far for the students at Staffs?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, this is obviously one of the highlights. So thank you for organising this, Rob. We've had the Christmas lectures, which were around Christmas time, where we had a range of interesting talk. Many of those you can still watch on YouTube if you're interested. We've had the Let's Talk Games conference, which Mike led, and we haven't got those talks online, but there is an overview, and this is something that Mike can confirm that I think we're hoping to grow and develop over the years. And there's still things coming up later in the year, and you keep an eye out on our socials, Twitter, and our website. More details of these will be launched as it comes up.
Lovely. So before Staffs, where did you even find out about Staffordshire University, and what made you all want to come to Staffordshire University to teach students?
Starting with me?
Yeah.
Staffordshire University, I mean, it's long been known as the biggest games education department in the country, and I think we're pretty certain in Europe and the world at the moment. So this has long been a place I've wanted to be. It's the Premier League of games education, and it's one of the few departments where we have those three pillars of art, design, and tech working in sync. There's a nice discussion about the CoLab module there as one of the capstones we have in the year. And I think the comment about not mentioning enough about that is absolutely spot on, Mike, because it's unusual where people get to work as an actual analog of the games industry. Most places you will have a little pocket of games programmers attached to a computer science department, or a little pocket of game artists attached to a art and design department. Getting programmers to do art for a major project is always an interesting experience, as it is asking artists to do the code. To have that opportunity to simultaneously learn off peers, but also interact in the way that the games industry does, I think is absolutely fantastic. And I've long said that games, beyond just learning to make games, is a really great way to learn your discipline. If you want to learn how to render something in 3D, whether that's to be a games artist or architectural visualization or anything like that, learning to do that in a games context is really useful, because you learn how to seamlessly describe what you're doing and describe your field to people who are not in that field. If you're programming, you're having to explain what your algorithm does to an artist or a designer. I think that develops a level of expertise that you don't just get through other disciplines. So yeah, for me, this has long been the target, and I'm very glad to be here.
So Dave, you've been at Staffs for a little while longer than myself and Mike. What has kept you here for so long?
I'm just realising my age now. You said that. It's the staff and students. I think that it's an amazing team, and where the team's changed in the time I've been at Staff since 2007 I started. So the team has changed almost wholesale since then. But it's each time there seems to be like a Staff's way and people, when they come in, they kind of adapt to that. Most notably yourself and Mike as well, Rob. You come in to buy into sort of what we do and how we work, and Chris as well. It's very much as a case of, this is the way that staff is going to operate and what we do, and that passes down through the staff into the students. And the sort of the approach, the attitude of the students is really professional. And there's that strive for that expertise, that strive for quality. And I think the other side of that is just the support from the university as well. So all of the hard work of the staff doesn't go unrewarded, because the university invests in facilities, it invests in the students, in terms of whether it's new PCs, new labs, new tech, laser scanners, whatever it might be, motion capture. That is renewed. I think we're on our third or fourth motion capture stage in the time I've been in since 2007, which is kind of crazy, but also like expected. So you'd be surprised if you had the same one, right? Like, obviously, but it's not like it's just a small cheap fiber optic system that you strap to someone and costs 20 quid out the back of a boot. It's a big optical system from Vicon, you know what I mean? This is professional grade stuff, and I think that's when you get a university that's providing that level of support, you feel valued for that. But that again passes down to the students as well. The big end of year showcase, Gradex as well.
I was literally just about to bring that up. As I was looking to apply to become a member of staff at Staffs, I was took around on Gradex, and the buzz of the place really was something that sold the coming here myself to be a teacher, and the amount of students that are putting on such high quality work that was around the place, and the industry that were there on the day, and the equipment that was readily available for staff and students to be able to utilize is second to none, which I've seen in the country. And why wouldn't you want to be in a place that's going to be able to provide that for you as sort of tangible assets, but also the people that are within it and the intangible assets that the institution has as well. I think that they exceed many, if not most, in the area of higher education. I'll bring that over to yourself, Mike. Obviously, you were leading a course in Leamington Spa, where there's a lot of the industry takes place within the Midlands. What drew you into Staffordshire?
Yeah, I mean, I ran a very successful course in Leamington, and it wasn't the easiest decision to jump to Staffs, just because of how far away you guys were compared to where I was living. But the thing that drew me the most was, and I know this because I'm an external examiner for a number of other universities as well, and it's the executive level, they understand what we're doing in games at Staffs, and you'll find other institutions they don't. And so there is that support right from the top coming down, and that was pretty obvious to me on things like doing the tours of GradX and speaking to the likes of Chris. So we were on the phone a few times talking about the opportunities there at Staffs, and it now that I'm here and I see, as you said, Rob, the quality of the students, but because we take on so many students, we can therefore take on plenty of staff in order to keep that staff to student ratio to 20:1 in the classroom. And that means if you're hiring that many staff, you can then be quite picky and pick staff who have experience in niche areas of games. So like Dave or you, Rob, have said, it's not about you've got a character artist coming in and having to teach how to do materials for car games, right? That just would not happen. And seeing that and seeing that there's an avenue for me to kind of specialize myself in a certain area. It's just a massive draw to me. So all of the hard work that it took for me to put a course that was successful in Leamington, I'm bringing that here, and I'm being supported 100% of the way, which is, I couldn't ask for any more.
I think it's really fantastic that staff also seem to all have positive things to say in terms of their ability to be able to upskill with those specialised pieces of equipment. Also, the curriculum at Staffordshire. I mean, things like the art for lighting that we're going to be delivering in the next semester, Mike. At other places, lighting is sort of something that's tacked on to the end of it, as opposed to being an
Exactly.
entire curriculum, which is obviously a testament to those that were writing the courses and those that are going to be delivering them as well. So with that, I think that it shows the commitment to trying to offer industry a product as our students, as graduates that are people that can already go into a company and offer extra value that they might not have had had they gone for something more general in a different case. So we've got a question that's within the chat, a little bit of a controversial one, I dare say, but still, I think it's important for us to talk about things like that, and that is the current situation of the games industry. And Divyanesh has asked, what's your current view in the situation of the games industry? And I'm going to presume, based off the recent layoffs, that it's going to be about how easy is it to get hired in the industry. I'm going to pass that first of all to Chris, but I'm going to also then give my own take on it. What are your thoughts?
Thanks, Rob. So the thing I would say first is it is obviously been a really challenging time, especially for those who've been impacted by the cuts, and I think maintaining a level of the compassion that the industry's shown has been actually really reassuring. The amount of people reaching out, opening, trying to create opportunities, or doing upskilling and training. Has been generally heartwarming, and actually this has hit some of my alumni. And I know it's Dave and Mike, probably yourself, have seen this happen to people we've taught. So just to the general sector, I think it's been fantastic to see how the sector has pulled together and actually tried to support these individuals who have been put into a really challenging situation. I would say it's worth remembering that the industry, all industries kind of go through cycles of this, especially in the tech sector. You go through periods of expansion and contraction, depending on particular opportunities, global context. The games industry, one of the very few industries that expanded during the pandemic, because people sat at home playing a lot of video games, right? It changed how we're interacting with technology. However, what we've seen is, although some of these bigger players have contracted, we've seen a lot of smaller studios start up or medium-sized studios grow. There's been new products brought to market. And again, when we talk about the games industry working in cycles, a product cycle for a game these days, I mean, used to be, back when I first started making games, a game would be in development for months. Right now it's years. So those cycles of kind of map to that as well. But we have, like I say, seen a lot of new studios, lots of new small indie studios pop up. We've also seen expansion in the mid-tier, which has been reassuring. Some of the partners we work really closely with have been expanding. So how it's made things more difficult, it has created challenges, but it's also created some opportunities. Certainly with our graduate pool from last year, we've not seen a huge change in employment rates on the face of it. So waiting for kind of final numbers. And I'm expecting the industry will kind of will find its way through this. And it is a shame, but it's also a sign that the games industry doesn't sit in monopolies, right? That there's not single bid players as there are in some other sectors, right? So the fact that a bunch of people with an idea can get together, form a company, and release a game means that there's always going to be that growth opportunity. There's always going to be a change as well, and we've seen that happen.
That's it. I think that it's a case of sometimes pressure makes diamonds, and obviously people losing jobs is never something that you want to see, nor do you want to go through. And it's important to know that the network that you have are also sometimes that your best best piece of thing that you can utilize as well. And we're seeing that all the time on places like LinkedIn that Mike mentioned earlier on, where you've got people sharing their friends' portfolios and actively trying to help each other. And I think it's an industry that is perhaps a little bit different in comparison to others, and that it is a lot smaller than people think, and the relationships that you have with individuals can be something that's really helpful, and going to industry events to meet friends and also find out what sort of extra work is going at certain places is somewhere that people can go in it, and it tends to be a very supportive experience in that sense. How about yourself, Mike?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the industry is smaller than a lot of people actually think. You know, I mean, as in it's big in terms of the amount of revenue that it makes, but in terms of, you know, everyone kind of knows everyone in the industry. I mean, in Leamington alone, you would have the art directors. I know that they would have a cigar and whiskey night, you know, and these are art directors from different studios. You know, with the recent layoffs at Free Radical, instantly you had Bulkhead put up you know, a system where they were trying to hire as many of them as possible, and that happened like Chris was saying. You get these kind of peaks and troughs of the industry, and when the mobile came out, you know, the iPhone and everything sort of went down in terms of big studios like Blitz Games. You know, they were sort of 400 and so much strong. From that, they grew all of these independent studios, and you know, we're seeing that still in Leamington. You've got the likes of Maverick Games there, Lighthouse Games have started up in there, so they've got all split off from Playground. So there are, you know, you'll see these headlines, and they are scary, I imagine, to some students who are either studying right now or thinking about studying, and their parents are seeing those headlines as well. But like Chris says, you know, it will swing back around the other way. You've only got to look at, I think the stats for last year was something like, I think we're still growing in terms of player numbers by 6.7%. Those people are going to want to keep playing, and they're going to want to, you know, play new games. So it's constantly going to be growing, I believe.
Is there anything else that you would like to add, Dave, just from your perspective?
I think it's, you know, it's one of these where, you know, there was a big expansion where folks were, you know, during lockdown particularly, consuming a lot of content. It grew. The industry just grew out of the back of that. A lot of people, you know, stayed at home, and I think there's almost, and I think in some ways it's a good thing for society that people are coming out of their houses a bit more, right? Like as a society, we should do that, right? You should go out and see the world. But the impact of that on people buying games is perhaps they're spending their money slightly somewhere else. But it's perhaps a little bit of a rebalance. But I think the natural growth of games is in people and families, you know, new generations of gamers coming into playing games, playing different types of games, and you know, the older folks, you know, they're not going to want to be playing perhaps Fortnite and Call of Duty perhaps with everyone else, but you know, they might be really interested in the new Lego Fortnite because it reminds them of perhaps their childhood, or that, you know what I mean, they're interested in that kind of game, whereas that's a slightly different audience. So I think that's perhaps where the industry, I don't know if it does it amazingly. I think it's still learning, and I think it's right to still be learning, but I think, you know, recognizing where actually there's an audience for people to play different types of games, and sort of targeting that, I think, a little bit, you know.
So in terms of targeting audiences, Dave, obviously we've got a lot of open days and a lot of events going on at the university, but I believe that we're out there at certain events as well. Is there anything that we can look out for in the future where staffs are going to be there?
We'll be as many places. I know we're from a student's point of view, we tend to be at the UCAS events. Staffordshire Uni will be at the UCAS. We've got some UCAS events coming up in Manchester and London over the next one next week, and I think another 2 weeks after that, so sort of 3 weeks time. We're generally at the UCAS Create Your Futures event as well, which I know a lot of colleges will pop their students onto a bus and ship those out to Manchester and to London as well. And we're generally there, and I'm usually that, although we've got certainly a games representative at those as well. So you feel free to ask us questions at those. And we get
also Insomnia as well. And a number of others. I believe that we're also going to be in attendance at Develop and WillCon as well. So if anybody is at those events and wants to come over for a chat with any of us that are there wearing some of our staff's gear or anything like that we do, or you recognise us from the stream, please feel free to do so. So I'd like to say thank you very much for joining me, all three of you, for the inaugural talk of Fuse 2024. Hopefully it's something that we continue to do year after year. We have got a variety of different guests this week, and it's important, as you can see coming across your screen right now, that you take a look at the timetable to see what you would like to come and to be a guest viewer. So take a look at that. And our next talk is actually at 1 p.m. with Bex Sounds, who is a VFX supervisor at Jellyfish Pictures. So please do make sure that you tune back in for that. But other than that, I'm going to say thank you very much, Dave, for the presentation. Thanks very much, Mike, for your guidance for the students and viewers. And thank you very much, Chris, for coming in and making us feel a hell of a lot more positive, potentially, about the industry. Hopefully, you'll be all seeing Dave, Mike, at least again as a co-host in one of the talks. But that's going to be it now from us at Staffordshire University Games Department. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.